The closing agent said, "Congratulations," but the room was already quiet. I signed the last document with a borrowed pen and watched the folder slide back across the table like it had weight. It did. It held every late night I'd worked overtime, every check I hadn't written, every flight I never booked. The notary smiled politely. I nodded once. The front porch was empty when I got home. I sat on the swing they'd left behind, the previous owners. Worn wood, still sturdy. I cracked open a root beer, the cheap kind my dad used to bring home after a decent payday. It fizzed a little too hard. I let it spill on the step. Buying this house felt like finding the silence I'd earned. I wasn't looking for applause. I was just tired of folding the same chair over and over again, waiting for someone to offer me a permanent seat at the table. So I sent out the invitations. Handwritten, stamped, mailed with love. I chose a soft cream cardstock, nothing too loud. The pens were black gel, the kind that doesn't bleed. Each note was personal. I addressed Fallon's first. My sister. "I've got 2 kinds of chili," I wrote, "and I'll pretend not to judge your cornbread." I signed it with my whole name, my real name. There was a moment when I hovered over the group text, wondering if I should send a reminder. But then I thought, if they cared, they'd check the mail. If they cared, they'd come. Saturday, 5 p.m., chili, cornbread, a cooler full of hope. I didn't need them to say congratulations. I just wanted them to show up like I always had. 3 days passed. Nothing. The group chat showed seen. No replies, just a line of gray text under my message and a row of profile pictures that meant they'd opened it. Fallon posted an IG story that afternoon, laughing in a boutique, holding up 2 dresses. Mom commented a heart. Dad sent a thumbs up. They liked Fallon's brunch photo. They didn't like mine. Maybe they were just busy. Maybe they didn't think I needed a response. Maybe people start skipping your milestones once you stop needing rescuing. Still, silence isn't neutral. It's noisy in its own way. Saturday came. I woke early and mopped the kitchen twice. Laid out bowls in pairs of 4. Hung string lights I'd tested the night before. Cooked 2 pots of chili, one with heat, one for my dad's soft stomach. The cornbread came out golden. I stacked the napkins by color. 5:02 p.m. I checked the window. 5:14. I opened the front door. 5:30. The food was still warm. At 5:33, I checked Fallon's story. Pop-up picnic, location tagged. A park 10 minutes away. "Family is everything," the caption read. Fallon was front and center in sunglasses, holding up a mason jar like a champagne flute. My parents were there, my cousins, even Uncle Dean. Everyone I'd invited. They went. They just didn't come here. The chili started to settle. I stirred it just to keep it alive, then turned off the stove. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't throw the cornbread out or smash the jars. I just stood in the kitchen while the clock moved. The string lights came on by timer. 1 bulb flickered. So this is how you learn your place. Not with a slap, with a shrug. I walked to the door and looked at the little welcome sign I'd hung beside the frame. Maybe I wrote it in invisible ink. And then my phone rang. It was my mother. Not to say sorry, but to ask for something. The phone kept ringing. I didn't rush to answer it. I watched the screen go dark, then light up again. "Mom," blinking like an afterthought. I picked it up on the 5th ring. "Hello?" Her voice, cheerful. No pause, no concern. Just her usual breezy way of skipping past discomfort. "Hey, honey, we were just talking. We thought maybe Fallon could use your kitchen for her live stream tomorrow. You've got great lighting in there." That was it. No, sorry we didn't come. No, how was the housewarming? Just a request. Like I was a stagehand being asked to adjust the lights. I think I said, sure. I don't remember how it came out of my mouth. Probably too fast. Definitely too quiet. But she took it as a yes. I didn't correct her. They hadn't forgotten. They'd chosen. By 2 o'clock the next afternoon, Fallon was on my porch. She didn't knock. She texted, "Here," from the car and walked in like this was still the family home. Her boyfriend carried in a duffel bag, and some kid I didn't recognize was wheeling in a ring light and a collapsible backdrop. Fallon had her hair curled and her makeup set like she was headed to an award show. "Let's start in the kitchen," she chirped, already pulling out her phone. I stood at the edge of the hallway while they rearranged my chairs, moved the toaster off the counter, and laid out faux props: artisanal bread, ceramic mugs, a tea towel that wasn't mine. She never said my name, never introduced me, just called it my sister's place. Once, offhand, like a set piece. As if I were the landlord of a space that had outgrown me. The kid with the camera asked if she lived here. Fallon winked. "Kind of. Spiritually, at least." I didn't speak. I watched from the doorway while the house I bought was turned into content. Neighbors passed by. One waved, I waved back. She waved at Fallon, not me. That night, I sat on the floor in the kitchen. I'd left the lights off. The tile was cold, but I didn't mind it. My phone buzzed, a text from Sharon, someone I used to work with. "Didn't know you were renting to Fallon. Looks great." 5 minutes later, another from a college friend. "I thought that was your house." I didn't answer. I stared at the messages until the screen went black. They didn't just skip my moment, they rewrote it. I opened Instagram, scrolled to Fallon's post. She was posing by the bay window, head tilted, captioned, "Creative mornings in my second home." Tags, #MySecondHome. Content, life, family, support. No tag for me, no mention of me, just a flood of heart emojis and "so proud of you" from people who didn't even know what state she lived in. I read the comments like bruises. Each one small, but they piled up. Scrolling down, I found her caption. "Thanks to my sis for letting me use her place. Love you, Lila." Lila. My name is Wayla. Not Lila. Not sis. Not a footnote in her curated life. Fallon had always done this. As kids, she used to introduce me as my half-sister, but fully annoying. Back then, I'd laugh, pretend I didn't care. Now it burned. I stared at the screen. I wanted to believe it was a typo, maybe autocorrect, maybe her nails were too long and she hit the wrong key, but deep down, I knew. You don't misspell someone out of your life by accident. They couldn't stand that I owned the house, so they renamed me out of it. The worst part? It worked. Everyone believed it. I turned off the phone, left it on the counter, walked to the bathroom and turned on the light, not because I needed it, but because I needed to see myself clearly. In the mirror, I saw someone I hadn't looked at directly in weeks. Not since the housewarming, not since the silence. I said my name out loud, once, then again. Wayla. Slower. Wayla. I own this. I woke up Monday morning to the familiar sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. Still half asleep, I reached over and tapped the screen. A notification popped up. Fallon had tagged me in a new post. It was a carousel of photos. The title, "Building Dreams. This is what family looks like." My stomach turned before I even opened it. I knew that phrase. I'd heard her use it in brand pitches, captions, interviews. Always the same syrupy tone, always the same performance. I tapped the post. There she was, smiling in my kitchen, seated on the swing I'd spent an afternoon sanding and repainting, holding one of my mugs like it was hers, the one with the chipped handle I kept because it fit my hand just right. There was even a photo where I appeared in the background, out of focus, half-turned, almost cropped out. The caption read, "So proud of how far we've come. Thank you to my sis for making this possible. Love you, Lila." Lila. I blinked at the name. My heartbeat climbed slowly, not from panic, not this time, just from that growing ache of knowing something wasn't an accident, because that's what people say, right? It was just a mistake. Autocorrect. Didn't realize I tagged the wrong profile, but I'd stopped believing in accidental erasure a long time ago. It wasn't the first time. There'd been vacations growing up where I was the one behind the camera, not in a single frame. "You take better pictures anyway," Mom would say. High school graduation, everyone got a group photo mailed to them. Mine didn't include me. Mom said, "Oh, must have been a printing issue." The one that stayed with me the longest? a local lifestyle article Fallon was featured in back when she started her influencer thing. I helped her build her first blog, set up the back end, wrote the bio, picked the layout. She told the reporter, "I built it all from scratch. No correction. No credit." Just me watching the story circulate with my fingerprints scrubbed off. This wasn't new, just newly visible. I stared at the screen and whispered to no one. They didn't just skip my moment. They rewrote it. I kept scrolling through Fallon's feed. This wasn't the first post where my name was off. I found two others, one where she thanked my baby sis, another with just a generic family tag. Even in the family group chat, I remembered that one time Fallon joked, "Wayla sounds like a typo. Should have been Wendy or something normal." Everybody laughed, including me back then. But when you start listening to jokes sideways, they land different. So maybe this wasn't clumsy. Maybe it was method. Maybe they've been soft deleting me this whole time. I didn't call her. I didn't comment under the post. I didn't send a text with a screenshot and a polite, "Hey, can you fix the tag?" I opened my own account and drafted a post. I uploaded a photo of my dining table, set for 8, untouched, still holding the folded napkins I'd ironed that morning of the housewarming. Caption: "Sometimes silence is the loudest RSVP." I stared at it for a while, hovered over the share button, then deleted it. Instead, I saved the image in a locked folder on my phone called Receipts. By noon, I was standing inside the locksmith shop. I didn't explain. Just handed over my key and said, "Change all the codes." He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. That afternoon, I drove to the hardware store. I knew exactly what I needed. One of those metal mailbox plates you can custom engrave. I filled out the order form, block letters, W, Brantley owner. The clerk slid the form back, nodded, and walked to the back. I stood there, watching through the plexiglass as the machine burned my name into a strip of steel. It made a slow, scratchy sound, steady, permanent. "You can't steal what you never owned," I thought, watching the letters form. "But you can damn sure claim what's always been yours." I was in the backyard, kneeling in the dirt. My palms were crusted with soil, fingernails half-mooned with dark earth. It was the first quiet moment I'd had in days. No texts, no updates, just the slow, steady rhythm of pulling weeds from the roots. Then came the knock. Not a tap, not a buzz at the gate. 3 firm raps at the front door. I stood up slowly, wiped my hands on my jeans, walked through the house barefoot, dirt sticking to the floor as I went. And there she was, Odessa, my mother, standing on the porch holding a rolled-up rug and a clipboard like she'd just come from planning a church bake sale. "Hi, baby," she smiled. "Thought I'd drop this off. It's your daddy's favorite rug. Also, just a few little ideas I put together." She didn't ask to come in. She stepped past me, past the threshold, into my house, the clipboard clutched like gospel. She glanced around again and said, "This lighting really is perfect. So much better than that old place." I watched her, blinking. "What's on the list?" I asked. She laughed. "Oh, nothing big. Just some things we've been thinking about as a family now that we've got a central space. Now that we've got..." She opened the clipboard and started reading. "Fallon could use your address for her business registration. Purely insurance-related, of course. The rates are better when it's a home base." I said nothing. She continued. "We'd love to host Thanksgiving here this year. There's more space, and people already assume this is the gathering spot now." Still nothing from me. "And we figured it'd be smart to move the family tools over here. Virgil's saw, the shelving, maybe some bins." I stood completely still. Not because I was unsure what to say, but because I was trying not to say it too fast. They didn't come to celebrate, I thought. They came to conquer. She laid the rug down at the foot of the sofa, unrolled it like she was blessing the space. "He always loved this one," she said. "Thought it would warm the place up." Then she walked into my kitchen, opened a drawer, and started rifling through utensils. "You thought about co-signing something small for Fallon?" she asked. "She's this close to landing a storefront." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I said, "Do you want a tour or a transfer of ownership?" She blinked at me, feigned offense. "Honey, I just want this to feel like home for everyone." "It already does," I said, my voice flat. For me. She stopped, for a second, then smiled again like I hadn't said anything. Kept flipping through her notes. Then, as she sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling her phone, she said it. We've already sent out the invitations for Thanksgiving. Family's expecting it here. I stared at her. You sent invitations? I asked. She looked up briefly. Well, group messages, Facebook event, you know. Just something easy. She kept talking, but I wasn't listening anymore. I looked toward the front door, the one I'd paid for, the one I'd picked myself after comparing 3 different wood grains. I bought this house to get a door between me and the noise, I thought. They picked the lock with nostalgia. I walked over to the fridge, pulled down the wall calendar. November sat at the top with a pumpkin graphic and little turkey stickers she must have added while I wasn't looking. I ripped the whole month off, folded it once, tossed it in the trash. She didn't even blink. I walked her to the door. Didn't yell. Didn't explain. I'll let you know what I decide, I said. She kissed the air near my cheek and stepped out like nothing had happened. I closed the door behind her, locked it. Then I noticed the clipboard. She'd left it on the dining table. I picked it up. Line item 12. Garage reorg for holiday storage. I didn't burn the clipboard. I filed it in a drawer marked Evidence. I pulled into the driveway later than I planned. The grocery bags were heavy enough to leave red marks across my fingers, but I didn't mind the sting. It made sense. Pain you could see, carry, drop on a counter, the kind that didn't need explanation. Her car was already there, not parked like a visitor. Parked like a person who still thought this was her driveway. Odessa was on my front porch, chatting with my neighbor, Mrs. Kemp. Like she lived here. I didn't say anything, just nodded as I passed them both, keys already out. You were gone forever, she said, walking in behind me. I didn't answer, just headed straight to the kitchen. I needed some fresh air, she added, too casually. I started putting groceries away one-handed. Left the fridge open longer than necessary, trying to cool something down in me that wasn't physical. As I shoved a carton of milk into the back of the shelf, I heard her voice behind me. You set this place up nice. Real nice. I kept my back turned. But don't get too attached, she said. Houses come and go. Then, almost a whisper, like she wasn't sure if she wanted me to hear it or not. Might be the only way anyone ever visits you. I didn't freeze. I didn't slam anything. I just paused. Not from shock, not from pain, but from calculation. They don't insult you with knives. They use teaspoons, 1 scoop at a time, until something in you hollows out. I finished unloading, then walked her to the door without a word. Later that night, after the sun dipped below the trees and the sky turned heavy, I checked the mailbox. A letter from my car insurance company. I opened it standing right there, by the curb. It wasn't for me. Well, it was addressed to me, but the policy wasn't mine. A second vehicle had been added to my address. A truck. Virgil's truck. I called the DMV. Waited on hold with music that made my molars ache. When a real person finally answered, they confirmed it. 2 days ago. No one told me, no one asked. They just used the address like it was a utility, like I was. They didn't knock. They moved in on paper. I held the letter up to the porch light and stared at it like it might vanish if I squinted hard enough. It didn't. Back inside, I tossed the letter on the counter and stared at it. Then I remembered something I hadn't thought about in years. Family reunion, 5 summers ago. We were each given a name tag at the entrance. I found mine in the B stack right next to Brantley. It said, Fallon's sister. I'd asked the lady at the table if I could change it. She looked confused. Fallon had walked by and laughed. It's just for fun, she'd said. But it wasn't funny. Not then, and not now. That tag never sat on my shirt. It sat on my role. The quiet one, the helper, the one who doesn't complain. I kept that role longer than I should have. Being the one who makes room isn't the same as being welcomed. I didn't call anyone. I logged into my homeowner's portal and set alerts for any property changes. Then I called my insurance company and added a verbal password, locked down my file, added a do not alter note unless confirmed in writing. Then I walked into the laundry room, opened the fuse box, and stuck a bright orange sticky note to the inside of the panel. W. Brantley owner. If they're going to pretend I don't live here, I thought, they'll need to explain all these passwords I just changed. The phone rang around midnight. Fallon. She was crying. Saturday morning came in quiet, like it was trying not to be noticed. I was already awake when the phone buzzed. I didn't move right away, just listened to it rattle across the nightstand and stop. I checked it only because I needed to know how bad it might be. Voicemail, from Virgil. I sat at the edge of the bed and played it. "It's time you step up and help your sister," he said. "We raised you to be the dependable one, not the kind who turns her back on blood. She's going through it right now. All she needs is a small cosign. That's all." His voice was calm, like he was asking me to pick up milk. I played it again, then once more, not because I didn't understand, but because I couldn't believe how normal it sounded, like he was reading off a weather report. In our house, obligation always wore a disguise. Today, it was dressed as fatherly wisdom. I pulled down a box from the hall closet. Inside was a blue folder I hadn't opened in 3 years. On the front, in Sharpie, I'd written, "Family Expenses." I sat at the kitchen table and flipped through it. There was a post-it from when I loaned Fallon $400 for her failed booth at a local craft fair. I was 19. She said she'd pay me back when she sold out of candles. She never mentioned it again. I'd paid for an oil change on Dad's truck once. He'd said he didn't trust those places to tighten bolts right. $72.81. I'd bought Mom's winter coat one year. She insisted on reimbursing me. I never saw it. Page after page, tiny betrayals dressed as shared responsibility. I pulled out my most recent sheet. House costs. Stapled, neat, labeled. Every dollar saved, every hour worked. Every inspection, repair, permit, and call logged and dated. They said I was stingy, but I was the only one keeping track. That evening, I showed up to their house with the folder under my arm. Virgil was at the table, eating dinner in silence like he always did. I sat across from him and laid the sheet between us. "These are the numbers," I said. I walked him through each one. He skimmed the paper once, folded it in half, and said, "You're thinking like an accountant, not a daughter." I didn't argue. I just listened. He stood up. "A man provides," he said. "You've got the house. Now it's your turn." Back home, I didn't turn on the lights, just sat at my own kitchen counter, the same paper still in my hand. I looked at it, not to check the math, but to see if anything had changed. It hadn't. I stared at the words until they blurred. A man provides. Funny how many men said that, right before asking me for something. My phone buzzed. Venmo notification. Fallon, $175. Gas plus groceries, 3. I didn't respond. I walked to my filing cabinet and pulled the folder back out. Crossed out the words family expenses. Wrote receipts, for me only. I logged into my credit report, set fraud alerts, froze access. Then I opened a new document on my desktop and titled it Inheritance of Noise. Not for money, for patterns. Each page had a different column. What they asked, what I gave, what they remembered, what they denied. They taught me to account for everything, except myself. Sunday morning started off still. The kind of quiet that feels staged. I hadn't made coffee yet. I was standing at the kitchen sink rinsing a mug when something outside caught my eye. I pulled back the curtain just enough. There she was. Fallon, in my driveway. Again. Only this time, she wasn't alone. She had a suitcase propped against her shin, a ring light slung over her shoulder like a purse, and a cell phone pressed to her ear. "I'll be set up by tonight," she laughed. Loud, careless, like she wasn't standing 10 feet from the person she'd ghosted last week. I didn't wait for her to knock. I opened the door with no smile, no greeting. "What are you doing here, Fallon?" She looked up and beamed. "Hey, my apartment's getting fumigated. Some weird bug thing. I just need a place for a few nights." Before I could say a word, she turned and waved at a guy stepping out of an Uber with more gear, camera bags, softbox lights, and a box of branded water bottles. "Also," she added, "I've got a collab shoot on Tuesday. The kitchen lighting here is chef's kiss. I mean, you know that. She didn't ask. She just started rolling her suitcase inside. By the time I closed the door, she was halfway through my living room, dropping bags, pulling out a makeup case, unzipping things like it was her green room. I didn't move. I stood in the hallway, staring at her silhouette bouncing from room to room. My space, again, being fitted into someone else's narrative. She set up her phone on a tripod near the stove. "I'll shoot some reels tonight. Quiet ones," she said, like I was a roommate she was humoring. I said nothing. Fallon went on, chattering into her AirPods about brand deadlines and lighting angles, panning shots, edits she needed done before Thursday. I waited until her call ended. Then I said, "You're not staying here." She blinked, laughed like I was making a joke. I didn't blink. "You didn't ask," I said, slow. "You just showed up. This isn't your workspace, and it's not your fallback." She stepped back, hands up in mock offense. "Jesus, Wayla, you're being dramatic. You live alone. It's just space. People who've always had access don't know how to knock." "You have until tonight," I said, voice steady. "After that, I'm changing the locks." She didn't reply. She just picked up her phone, walked out onto the porch, and hit record, tears in her voice, always ready for her audience. "When your own blood shuts the door on you," she said, camera tilted up toward the sky. "When people you love turn cold." #toxic, family, #healing journey, #grateful. Anyway. She walked to her car, turned for one final shot, and drove off. By dinner, the post had gone semi-viral. Comments rolled in. "She looks so sad. What kind of sister does that? She must be jealous, probably bitter and alone." I didn't reply. I didn't delete. I screenshotted every comment, every tag, every message. I filed them into a folder I'd already labeled Narratives. Her noise wasn't new. This time, I'd keep receipts. Monday morning came fast. My cousin texted in the group thread, "So, are we still doing Thanksgiving at Wayla's?" I waited, let the thread breathe. Then Odessa chimed in. "Unfortunately, plans changed. She's not in the right headspace right now." I could feel that smile behind the words. This time, I answered. "Thanksgiving isn't canceled," I typed. "It's just not here." Monday started with my phone vibrating itself across the nightstand like it had somewhere better to be. I reached for it. Missed calls, texts, DMs. Group chat lit up, even 2 emails, all pointing to the same thing. Fallon had posted a new video. I didn't click immediately. I sat up, braced myself with a sip of stale water, and then tapped the screen. The thumbnail said enough. Her in the car, tears barely smeared under perfectly done lashes. The caption read, "Sometimes your own blood slams the door in your face." Hashtags, #toxic, family, #black sheep survivor, #healing journey. I watched it once. She sniffled through the whole thing, said she never wanted to be a burden, just needed a safe place, said I turned cold and that some people don't know how to love unless you're perfect. She looked off camera for effect, like someone told her to hold the pause. I scrolled the comments. "You deserve better. She seems jealous. Must be lonely living in that house all alone." They always said I was quiet. Now silence had turned into accusation. I didn't react. I didn't post a counter video or write a long Facebook status about my side. I screenshot every comment, every tag, every username. I sorted them by date, timestamped them, and dropped them into a folder titled Narratives. At 11:17, Virgil called. I let it ring 3 times, then picked up. "You heard about your sister?" he asked. "No hello?" "Yes." "Well, she's struggling, trying to launch that store, trying to make something of herself." He paused, then shifted gears. "Listen, we talked, and it would be smart to pull 80 out of the equity. Just a cushion. For the family. Temporary." There it was. Polished manipulation, wrapped in good ideas. "There's nothing temporary about signatures on deeds," I said flat. "You're not hearing me," he replied. "This is about everyone. That house shouldn't just be a trophy. It should work for the family." "My house," I said, "is not a group project." I hung up before he could add something about loyalty. By noon, I was standing at the county office with a printed copy of my deed, sole owner, highlighted in yellow. I filed a property freeze. No one could add, remove, or amend the title without a password, ID, and an in-person signature. Next stop, the mortgage company. I added verification protocols, froze all automatic account accesses, and requested alerts for every inquiry. Back home, I changed the locks again. This time, I didn't feel like I was defending something fragile. I was sealing it in. They used to borrow my car. Now they wanted to co-sign my life. I was digging for something in the junk drawer, batteries maybe, when I found it. A leftover invitation card from the housewarming, cream card stock. Still clean. Never mailed. I stared at it for a minute. Then I walked it to the fridge, taped it up next to the calendar. Underneath, I wrote in red ink. They were invited. They just chose somewhere else. That was the loop closing. Not with anger, just clarity. I stopped waiting for them to come through the door. I started reinforcing the frame. Later that night, there was a knock. I checked the peephole out of habit. It was Aunt Mara. She held a manila folder in one hand, a homemade pecan pie in the other. Her voice was low, almost apologetic. I think you need to see what Fallon is planning next. I opened the door, and for the first time in this whole mess, I felt something close to war. I didn't open the folder right away. It sat on the counter all day Monday, next to the fruit bowl, across from the coffee maker, underneath a bill I hadn't looked at yet. I walked past it 12 times, maybe more, but I felt it, heavy, even unopened. Tuesday evening, I made myself sit down. Mara hadn't said much when she handed it to me, just a soft, "You need to see what Fallon's doing." That's all it took. The envelope wasn't thick, but what it carried, it didn't need to be. Screenshots, text threads between Fallon and someone named Lexi, laughing about taking over the space. Fallon calling the house, "our creative property." She had a business pitch, PDF, sent to a brand I recognized. It described a family-owned space designed for women-led content, with photos of my kitchen, my living room. The address was typed beneath her LLC header. As if she lived here, as if it were hers. She wasn't just erasing me, she was replacing me. I spread the papers out across the table like puzzle pieces. I matched dates from the screenshots to the week before the housewarming. Fallon had pitched the sponsorship while I was scrubbing baseboards. The photo of her on the swing, she'd already signed the proposal that week. In one email, there was something worse, a message from Mom. Odessa had forwarded Fallon the mortgage company's name, my closing timeline, even a copy of my welcome flyer. "They didn't skip my celebration because they forgot," I whispered. "They skipped it because they were busy rebranding it." I felt the burn crawl up the side of my face, but I didn't let it move past my throat. Rage wanted space. I gave it discipline. I picked up the phone, called the property records office. Spoke with a woman named Cheryl. I kept it light. "Hi, I was wondering if anyone's made recent inquiries about parcel ID 013024. She paused, clicked some keys. "Yes, actually, one about a week and a half ago." Initial access inquiry. "Do you have a name?" "Fallon Murray," she said. "Family member?" "No. Thank you." I ended the call and dialed my lender. I asked them to confirm that no third party had submitted anything under my account. They hadn't. Then I sat back in the chair, stared at the wall. I used to think paranoia was the problem. Turns out, it was giving them the benefit of the doubt. I didn't cry. I documented. Later that night, I got a text from Janine, family friend, church committee type. We'd never been close, but she still sent birthday cards. "Hey, sweetie, just checking in. Fallon said you're going through something. Odessa told me you're not as organized as you seem, and that you got a little lucky with the house." I stared at the message until my hand felt numb. They didn't say it loud. They never did. That's what made it surgical. It wasn't about praise. It was about credibility. I was allowed to build something. I just wasn't allowed to be seen as capable. I read the line again, "not as organized as you seem," and all I could think was, they always believed I could carry the load. They just never thought I was worth the spotlight. I walked to my desk, opened a new folder on my desktop, named it, "This House Stays Mine." Then I turned on the webcam, sat still for a second, hit record. My name is Wayla Brantley. Today is Tuesday. This is my home. Any person or platform claiming shared ownership is mistaken. That was it. Just 1 minute, one sentence. I didn't post it, but I saved it. The ding from my phone pulled me out of a half sleep, that in-between space where you're not dreaming, just drifting. I'd left the curtains open the night before. The light through them felt like accusation. I grabbed the phone off the nightstand and saw the notification. Fallon tagged you in a video. I didn't even blink. I opened it. The thumbnail was enough. Her sitting in her car, face blotchy, voice shaky. I pressed play. "This is the woman who kicked me out," Fallon said. The camera didn't pan to me, but I was there, in the window reflection behind her. My arms crossed, my mouth set hard, just enough to frame the shot. She didn't name me, but she didn't have to. The video was edited with soft piano music in the background, like it was a home movie from a tragedy. Her eyes welled up perfectly. "She changed," Fallon whispered. "She's not who she used to be. And I still love her. But I had to walk away from the pain." 22,000 views. The comments were brutal. "She's so cold. Probably jealous. Some people don't deserve family. It's always easier to be the villain when someone else holds the camera." I didn't reply. Didn't open the app again. I opened my laptop instead. Folder. Narratives. Every post. Every tag. Every lie. All time-stamped. All backed up. I changed my account settings. Locked everything down. Submitted a takedown request for any unauthorized images of me or my property. Then I opened a new doc. Drafted a short statement. Factual. Dry. No emotion. I read it back. Closed the tab. Deleted it. Instead, I walked to the hallway. Taped a paper to the wall beside the thermostat. It read, "Silence isn't surrender, it's strategy." Around 4:00 p.m., I checked the mail. One white envelope from the HOA. Thin. Standard. I opened it at the counter. The name on the address label said, Lila Brantley. I didn't laugh. Inside was a formal notice. Someone had filed a complaint. Commercial influencer activity observed at your property address in potential violation of residential zoning rules. No signature, but I knew. Fallon had used my house for her videos. Now they were using that footage to push me out of my own home. They turned my home into their brand. Now they were trying to evict me from the story. I didn't react. I responded. I printed my deed, highlighted sole owner, taped it to the fridge, right next to the original housewarming invitation. I opened my email and composed a draft to 2 of Fallon's sponsors. I attached screenshots, parcel records, links to my county filings, drafted a professional, concise statement. Didn't send it, not yet. Instead, I made a call. It was to a local reporter named Denise. We'd crossed paths when I volunteered on a grant committee last year. I asked if she had time for a coffee. We met the next afternoon. I brought the file. She didn't ask how much I wanted. I told her I didn't want money. "Just clarity. I have a story for you," I said. "What happens when family becomes your PR crisis team?" That night, I stood in my kitchen and poured myself a cup of coffee. No milk, just bitter. I looked around. No noise, no people, no posts, just space. They called this place cold. Maybe it is, but it's clean. It's mine. I walked to the light switch and taped a new label under it. Off equals them on equals me. And then the group chat went silent for 3 whole days. Friday morning was still. The kind of still that doesn't promise peace. It just dares you to make a sound. I sat on the porch swing with my coffee, not because I needed the caffeine, but because that's where I'd been when everything cracked. And it felt right to come back here now, to see what was left of it. It had been 3 days. 3 days since anyone from that family had called or texted. No Fallon, no Odessa, not even Virgil. The group chat was frozen. My last message sat at the bottom like an unanswered prayer. No one left. No one removed me. Just silence, like a waiting room with no receptionist. Sometimes silence isn't peace. It's people waiting to see who'll speak first. I wasn't going to. I was done playing the host in their circus. By noon, I was inside the house, pulling little ghosts out of drawers. The rug Odessa laid down, the one she claimed was your daddy's favorite. I rolled it up, no hesitation. Fallon's mug on the windowsill, pink, chipped, something she'd left after a shoot. I rinsed it, dried it, and packed it in bubble wrap. Her ring light cable was still wound behind the bookshelf. I pulled it out like a weed. In the kitchen drawer, I found the clipboard Virgil had left weeks ago. I'd meant to throw it out, but I didn't. Not because it meant anything, but because it didn't. All of it went into a box labeled Return to Sender. Not everything needs burning. Some things just need returning. Around 3, my neighbor knocked. She had a pie in one hand, a gardening book in the other. I don't know all that's gone on, she said, but the way you've handled it, I'm proud of you. We talked about tomatoes and frost, simple things, real things, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something in my chest unclench. Validation doesn't have to roar. Sometimes it just knocks gently and says, "Good job." After she left, I walked back inside and left my phone in the laundry room. I didn't check it once that night. I stood in front of the fridge. The invitation card from my housewarming was still there, slightly curled at the edges now, stained faintly from the steam of boiling water over time. Below it, I'd taped a second piece of paper, a post-it note. I chose me. That was the echo, the one I hadn't seen coming. I stood there, staring at it, not as a statement, but as a timeline. She waited. I arrived. The version of me who had made chili, who set the porch lights to flicker warm and gentle. That woman waited by the door like a loyal dog, hoping for a knock that never came. I didn't bury her. I became her, only less obedient. That night, I opened a video call with someone I hadn't talked to in 10 years. Joanna. We grew up 3 blocks apart. She moved out of state when we were 22 and had been checking on me silently through others. I heard what happened, she said. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. I smiled, not because it made it okay, but because she meant it. It taught me who belongs on my porch, I said, and who only knocks when they want something. The call ended with plans to visit. Not soon, but someday. Maybe. I went back to the porch and sat under the string lights again. One bulb had gone out. I didn't change it. The mailbox rattled behind me. A new envelope dropped in. No return address.